All right, so I'm going to work a few problems with you before you take your quiz. The first ones are just going to be real simple. So it says solve for x. Remember that x is your unknown. It's your variable. It's the number we don't know yet. Okay. So I'm gonna work this same problem two different ways to make sure that you understand that it doesn't matter which direction you go. First thing is this has no labels, so it's just solving for x. So the way that Miss Webster talked to you is that if you look at the fraction that has no friend, so the one with the variable, if you go to its number right here, so I want to make sure I can write on this. So the one with no friend is the one with the variable. So this 8 right here, it tells me where I'm starting. So I just take that 8 or my lonely number and I multiply diagonally. So it's going to give me 8 times 9. Okay, so 8 times 9. And then whenever I get that answer, I'm just going to simply, 8 times 9, you should all know, is 72. Once I get that answer, I'm going to simply, the only other number I have, I'm going to divide the answer by that number. So I'm going to take 72 and divide that by 5. Well, 5 we know goes into 7 one time. 1 times 5 is 5. When I subtract, I'm left with 2. Bring down the other 2. I'm not very good at writing with this thing. So 5 goes into 22 4 times. 4 times 5 is 20. When I subtract, I'm left with 2. And then I'm not done because I don't have 0 down here. So I'm going to add a decimal right here so that I can add a 0 to the back of it and then bring that 0 down to continue dividing. Okay, so 5 goes into 20 4 times, and 4 times 5 is 20, which now when I subtract, I get 0. My inside my house, I have one decimal. So I have to have one decimal back here, or you know that your decimal can just go straight up. So I know that my answer should be 14.4. So I want you to keep that in mind for just a second, and I'm going to erase this stuff right here. Had I gone a different direction, so let's just say that instead I did, and Miss Cloudy talked to you about a method where you find your variable, okay, right here. You hop across or jump across. This gives me 9. And then I take that 9 and I multiply diagonally across. Well, if I do that, it's going to give me 9 times 8. Okay, which is 9 times 8 is still 72. What I want you to realize is it does not matter if you do that method where you find your variable and jump across and then multiply diagonally, or if you go to the lonely number and multiply diagonally, because you're multiplying the same numbers. That's what I want you to really understand about that. And then once you get 72, you're going to divide by the only other number, which is divide by 5. When you do that, you're still going to get the 14.4. So let's check our answer right here. 14.4. And so we have that right. Okay. All right. So I want to, we were solving, I want to write some proportions. So let's look at that for your quiz later. So let's look at this. It says 5 markers cost $6.55 or $6.55. Which equation could help determine the cost of the markers? So again, I want to be able to write. Let me pick that color right there. So here's the thing. First, I need to label my words. So right here, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to say, you know what? I want to do markers over money. So I'm going to make a money sign so that they're both would start with M, okay? If I do markers over money, I know that I have 5 markers and they cost $6. I'm going to learn to write with this thing, I promise. And 55 cents. Okay? And then it asks me, which equation could help determine the cost of 4 markers? So if it's going to be a proportion, it's going to be equal. So if I have 4 markers, it's going to look like that. All right? Had I done, I'm going to come over here and work. I'm going to change color. If I had done money on the top and markers on the bottom, The only thing that would change is I would have $6.55 on the top. And whenever I had $6.55, I know that I got 5 markers. So it's going to look like that. It just flips because you flipped the way that you set up your fraction or your proportion. Okay. And then my other markers or my question, I know it's going to be equal. And then my 4, what are they? They're 4 markers. So it has to go with the markers. That's why it's going on the bottom for this fraction. Not the ugly 4. But here it went on the top because I had markers up top. Okay. So let's look at our answer choices and find the one that matches what we set up. You always label it first, set it up, and then you can easily find it. So what I know is, I know that, let's say I have markers on the bottom. Well, here I have 4 markers, okay? And then I have on top, but then I have markers on the bottom, okay? So I'm going to tell you that doesn't make sense to me. Here I have 4 markers, then I have 5 markers on the bottom. So I know I can eliminate those, okay? But what is confusing? So if I've eliminated B and D, if you will look, they could have done, set up the markers here and the money here. But what's the problem with A? Where does the $6.55 belongs with how many markers? 5 of them. So they can't be across like that or diagonal like that. So if I take the 4 or the 5 markers, 5 markers, it's got to be next to or on the same fraction as the 655, because I know that if I do my process, I am going to be multiplying 4 times 655. 4 times 655, no matter what direction. Here, I'm not multiplying 4 times 655. I'm not multiplying 4 times 655. I'm not multiplying 4 times 655. I'm not multiplying 4 times 655 diagonally. So none of these work, okay? Okay, let's try one more of these. All right. 9 pencils cost $7.74. So again, I'm going to set up those words, pencils over money. Okay. So if I have 9 pencils and they cost $7.74, and I know that it's going to be equal because it's a proportion. What is 6 pencils going to cost? So I know, where does 6 need to go? It's pencils, so it needs to go on the top for this one. Okay, now if I flipped it over here and rewrote it, pencils just have to all be on the bottom. Okay, if I flipped it over. So let's look. What do I know? I'm going to change colors. What do I know I'm going to be multiplying? The 6 and the 7. And here's my variable. Let's just go ahead and put a variable right here so it makes sense. So the same thing, if I cover up my variable and hop across, I'm still multiplying $7.74 times the 6. Okay, so whichever one I choose has to make it where I'm multiplying those 2 numbers first. Well, here, if I have 6 times 774, here I have 6 times 9, so we know that can't work. Here I have 6 times x, we know that can't work. Here I have 6 times 9, I know that can't work, okay? The only thing I need to check on A before I choose it, because I know all these we said can't work, is did I multiply the lonely number, the 6, or this number if I'm starting at 774, multiplied it by the 6, yes, and then divide by the other number, which is 9, to get the answer. And does the 9 and the 774 tie together? Well, yes, because they're both on the top, okay? So my answer, and then the amount that I'm looking for belongs with the 6, yes, because they're both on the bottom, okay? So here what they did is they did like part over whole or whole over the part, okay? So if all the pens were the whole, and then the part of the pens, so if I have all of my pens were 9, and I want to know what 6 of them cost, which